Hi, it's Maria here, and this is the painting we'll be working on today. It's a floral and it's about 20 inches wide. So, getting straight into it here, I'm starting the painting just using I use random colors. And often I start with really bright colors because I just want to, make it vibrant. But my total goal and aim at this point, it's not making appropriate marks, or it's not um, being specific about any subject matter. What I'm trying to do here is cover up the white of the canvas. That really is my goal. And down at the bottom, you can see I've mixed some of that orange with a bit of black and got a brown. And the bottom of the canvas tends to be darker because down at the bottom, if you look at nature, if you go out into your garden and look at flowers growing down near the ground, it's going to be darker. And as you go up higher, more light is coming into your picture frame. And the light is falling on the flowers or whatever is growing, the leaves. So on top, you've got brighter, down below, you've got darker. So really that's all I'm thinking about here is filling in, getting rid of the white of the canvas and really playing around. And it's really good just to loosen yourself up, especially, at this stage, not to be tight, not to be making decisions and final decisions about where things are going. This is my approach, is just to be loose and to enjoy it and generally lay down a foundation. And it's the first layer of the painting, and I will be layering over that more and more layers. And I'm adding blue in, and the blue will mainly be up on top. And again, as you look up, as things recede into the distance, and the horizon is always above in the distance, above the ground, and there's more water in the horizon, more mist, more vapor, and that's why the sky is blue, and that is why things that are up higher tend to be blue, and that blue filters down right through. I'm just bringing a little bit of it right down through the canvas. So really, sometimes you've probably heard me saying before, if you're watching my videos, that I often look at the garden or at the flowers, or whatever I'm thinking about painting, and underneath it there's a tangle. There's, underneath those beautiful flower heads, there is spiders, there's worms, there's all sorts of things, weeds, things tangled up underneath. And really, that's what I do in the beginning. I create the tangle, I create the mess, and on top of that, I start layering more and more colors, more and more of the final colors I want to put in, and just bringing order. As you can see, I have speeded this video up because really this part of the video, it's just anybody can do this. This is just playing around, having fun. You can use any colors. If you want to stick to the colors, if you want to kind of produce something like I'm doing, you can feel free to use these colors, but you don't have to if you don't have them. Because at the end of the day, the colors in the painting are going to look quite different at the very, very end. So they do change. And really, some of that, very little of that orange is going to be peeping through in the end. So now I'm bringing in the white. And just again, I started with my darks, getting rid of the white of the canvas. Now I'm coming back and I'm bringing in the lights again. And you probably wonder why. Why would you do that? Why don't you leave the white of the canvas come through? And it's because really I want to build layers. I want to build depth in the painting. So here I am using this brush, actually. It's a brush that I never liked. I bought it and I really didn't like it because it's very stiff. The bristles in it are very stiff. But for what I'm doing here, it actually works because I'm almost using it like a palette knife. Those bristles just, they're so hard. And I don't know what you would use a brush like this for, but this is actually really working out. Instead of using a palette knife, I just wanted something a bit thinner, and the bristles do hold a little bit of paint. So I'm bringing in this white again and just filtering it right down through the picture. I'm turning it over, and that is just really so that I'm getting these marks everywhere. I don't want them to be limited just to the top of the painting. I want them to be random. I don't want to be, again, making any decisions at this point. So I can turn the painting over and I'll turn it the other way around again. So I want to give you a little tip that I have just found really, really good. What I'm using, this white, it's gesso, and it's not white paint. So you'll find if you're painting that it's mainly white paint that you're using the most of, especially with acrylics, because the paint dries so fast. It's really easy to keep using the white. And even if you're using oil paints, which I use a lot of as well, the paint you use most of is white. And it can be expensive just buying tube after tube of white paint. But I was listening to this artist on YouTube, and she said that she uses gesso. So gesso is used to really to prime a canvas, or to put an undercoat on a canvas, or it's as a foundation, but it actually is white acrylic paint. And that's what I did. I went off and I bought myself a tub of white gesso. It cost 20–30 euro. It was a bit of an investment, but the thing is about it is, if you buy good quality, if the rest of your paints are good quality, good strong pigment, if you mix those with the white, it really makes your paint go much, much further. You're not having to think about buying more white paint, and I can be really, really free with the amount of this gesso that I use because I have so much of it. So it's nice to feel that you have the luxury to use it. And I just find that with the acrylic paint, putting these little layers and these marks in white paint down, I can just paint over them and, you know, put washes of color over them, and it just brings up the colors, really bounce when they're painted over that white paint. And it's just the way the acrylics work. But I can still put down my layers, but yet adding in the white paint over the layers gives me back some vibrancy when I lay color down over that again. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. But really, just bringing in that white gesso really gives me more vibrant color, because whatever color I lay down over that white, those white streaks or white marks, becomes very, very vibrant and very bright and really gleams out. So, and just that's something that I'm really keen to do, is work more and more with color and get my colors brighter. And I really am finding the acrylics very, very good for this. So I'm coming in with some green now. So really I'm thinking now more about the final colors in the painting. And I'm coming in with my foliage, really. And you can see I'm going in and out. I'm covering some of the white. So I'm getting different shades of green, lighter shades over the white and darker shades over the other colors in the background. And I'm not using that paintbrush the way you'd hold a pen or a pencil. I'm kind of holding it sideways. A lot of the time you notice that's what I'm doing. I'm holding the brush down at the bottom. I'm not holding it tightly up at the top where I'm going to get fixed marks. I'm holding it loosely because I want the brush to be free and loose. I want the painting to be more spontaneous at this point. Now I'm coming in with a small brush, but I'm still holding the brush at the very end, at the tip. And the reason is I want the brush to be floppy and to be loose in my hand so I can make those squiggles. And again, this is just very freestyle, very, almost when I'm looking at this, it is almost like music, like making little, or writing in another script, writing in a foreign script from another country that I don't understand. So it's just little squiggly mark making, but these will form, as time goes on, they will form the basis of the flowers and the twigs and the branches and the leaves. So just having a lot of fun here, playing around with shapes. Really, I'm coming into more, this is more now working with shapes rather than, up to now I was working with colours and mark making and just laying down one colour over another. But now I'm getting into lines and shapes. And I suppose up to now as well, I was working with texture, because in actual fact, some of that paint is thick. Some of that white gesso, I laid it down quite thickly, so it has formed texture. Those kind of branch-like marks that I made with the white paint will be standing out, raised out a little bit from the canvas. So these little marks are kind of like the little bits of leaves and twigs and swirling branches. And another little tip that I've just come up with lately as well is, instead of, when you're using a thin brush like that and you want to, I'm smudging it now, I'm using a bigger brush to smudge around a little bit of what I've laid down in that colour. But instead of, when you're using a thin brush and you want to use it all over the canvas and you have a lot of ground to cover with it, that thin brush with the brown paint on it, it's not going to go very far. So you're going to have to keep dipping your brush into water to make it more fluid and make it go further. But what I'm finding is I just use a spray bottle. I have a spray bottle, an old bottle that I have filled with water. And what I do is I keep spraying my brown. If I put brown paint out or green paint, or here I have blue paint, I just spray it every now and again, give it a good few bursts of spray, and that keeps it liquid, and I don't have to keep dipping the brush into the water over and over again. It's actually really, really handy. So just these little techniques can save you time and just make life easier. Helps me to be more spontaneous and work faster. So yeah, I like this blue, this deep blue. So I haven't come in with any of my flower shapes yet. I haven't defined anything, but I don't have a picture that I'm working from. I'm not working from a photograph, but I keep a lot of information in my head. I've done a lot of painting wildflowers for the last few years. So from really studying them, I have a good idea what they look like, and I can reproduce them now out of my head. But from time to time, if I was working on lilies lately, and I just really felt I was working on lilies, even though I've worked on lilies in the past. I still wasn't getting what I want from out of my head. They just weren't looking like lilies to me. So I did start working from photographs. I'll just go Google, or I have a book of on flower arranging, and I have other gardening books, and I'll just look at those. I have a botanical book as well of all different types of wildflowers. So I just look through the books, find pictures of lilies, and kind of start working from them, from the photos. And then usually I go, yeah, okay, this is where I was going wrong. I didn't have the stem structure right, or the leaves structure wasn't right, or they just didn't look as if they were sitting properly together, the lilies. Um, so you just eventually work it out. So observation, what I'm trying to say is observation is hugely important, especially if you're starting out. But these flowers that I'm going to be painting today are just really simple. I mean, they're kind of like buttercups or like wallflowers or geraniums or busy lizzies, just generally that kind of little flower structure, but it's not any definite flower in my mind with, a certain number of petals. It's just a general little shape of flowers that I'll be bringing in now very shortly. So here you can see it's just layer over layer. I'm working over the white, really covering up the white again, but you can still see kind of those branch marks in the background. And I was kind of thinking of a title for this painting, and I just keep thinking of a rainbow. I don't know if you can see it, but I can see like really a lot of colors there swirling around in the background. So I just thought it's like a rainbow of what, of flowers. So yeah, coming back in now with really I'm going to start defining some still very free style, and these are more like little buds or the beginnings of little flowers, and just laying them down. I have slowed down the video a little bit here because I wanted you just to see exactly what I was doing. In the beginning I had it speeded up just while I was putting down the broad marks, and you can see as I go on through the painting the brushes now tend to be thinner. I start off with my wide brushes and now just getting a bit more specific. I'm using the gesso again, but I've mixed the gesso with a little bit of kind of a mauvey blue. And again, holding on to the very end of the brush. And when I'm making these marks, I'm kind of twirling the brush around, twisting it around, rolling it around in my fingers. So the brush is actually twisting, the head of the brush is twirling around. And it kind of just gives me those marks that I want. And just the idea of light filtering down as well. So if you get value out of this today, if you're enjoying it and you like what I'm doing, please subscribe, and I'd really love it. And comment, let me know what you think. Let me know if you can understand what I'm saying or if I need to go through anything again and demonstrate it more clearly. So yeah, I'm finally bringing in the shapes of the flower heads. And they're white flowers, and I left them basically, in the end I left the whites of the flowers because I left them white because the background is so multicolored that I felt just the white flower heads worked in well with the colourful background. I suppose you could call this very impressionistic or expressionistic in style. It's a response really to flowers. I spent a lot of time in my garden over the summer, and that was lovely as well, just planting flowers, watching them grow. That's really lovely. And I went on a lot of trips as well, in the countryside, a lot of lovely country walks, and took a lot of photographs. So I'm zooming in here and just showing you again. I'm using a thinner brush, but I'm working over some of the whites of those flowers with a little bit of green, kind of a wash of green, just to get rid of some of the white. And I'm going to come in here now and work on the hearts of those flowers, just to give the flower heads a bit of definition. I loaded a bit too much colour onto that one, so I wiped it off with just an ordinary paper tissue, paper towel. And here again, just playing with that brush, keeping it as spontaneous as I can, the little hearts, the centres of the flowers. Adding more details into them, but kind of keeping the swirling shapes. And I zoomed in just to kind of into the picture, just to let you see a bit more clearly what I'm doing. And zooming out again now, just to getting it back into focus. So as I go on, what I will do at the end of this now is varnish it. And, you know, off camera, maybe, you know, at the end, I usually come back a few days later and add a few more finishing touches to it. It's something I can't resist. You know, as time goes on, sometimes I just can't leave it alone. I see something and I have to add to it or change something. So yeah, I'm just adding these, you know, these tiny little marks. You might say that they're not necessary, but it's just lovely, you know, from the distance you may not see them, but when you come up close to the painting, it's just lovely. You get all these little kind of small marks and little surprises and these little swirly details in there. So I just like putting these little finishing touches to it. And yeah, I'm adding more white to the flower heads just to make them pop out. As I said, a lot of the time I would paint over those again with a wash of colour, but today I've decided I want those flowers to be very white because of the multicolours that are going on in the background. I need those flowers to be very white to pop out and to stand out from the background. So yeah, I'll come back in and I will give it a coat of varnish, and that will even make the colours pop out even more again. When acrylic dries, it has this very dry kind of feel to it. So when you varnish it, it brings up the colour another notch again. So it's great to have you with me today. Thank you for joining me. I'm also on Instagram and I'm on Facebook under Artist Maria Burke. So I hope you join me again and that you enjoyed it today. So please watch it to the end and you'll see the finished piece. It's almost finished. And talk to you next time. God bless. Bye-bye.